Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure being with us this evening. My name is David King Etienam, and I am a marriage and relationship coach. So here we are tonight, and I felt rather, that we should continue from where we stopped, or where we left off, or rather where we were supposed to touch on the last time. And that's where we're going to be beginning this evening. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry in the sense that the subject for today is one that we are going to be taking on within the next couple of months. So, because I have 1 week per month for my session, it means we are going to go through these sessions in 4 classes. 4 classes. I call it the foundation of relationships. And as we proceed, we will get to know why this is so. Now, we have 4 basic temperaments. 4 basic temperaments. We have the sanguine, which we are going to be dealing with today. We have the choleric. We have the phlegmatic. Then we have the melancholy. And so within the next 4 months, starting today, we are going to be dealing with these 4 temperament classes primarily. Now, there are the secondary aspects of temperaments where we have different combinations. But I'm going to be dealing with these 4 basic temperaments. And by the time we are done, you will find out that it's possible to cohabit or to coexist with every kind of human being on the face of the earth. Now, don't quote me wrong. I didn't say it's easy. I said it's possible. Now, which also means that we may find ourselves not enjoying cohabiting with people. But that's why I want to take us through these 4 basic temperaments, so that by the time, we get to understand them, we will be able to put ourselves in a position where we can, be coordinated and to work with these kinds of people. Okay. Now, I remember mentioning, maybe in this on this platform, that our temperament is who we are. Our temperament is who we are. We didn't choose our temperaments. We were born with it. Let me say that again. Our temperament is who we are. We didn't choose our temperament. In other words, we did not have the opportunity given to us to choose our temperaments. We were born that way. Whatever may have caused God or the universe to select what temperament befits each person, I have no idea. But you see, based on the study of temperaments, where human beings were observed, and over the years, we cannot fault it. We cannot fault it. That if you begin to assess every human being on the face of the earth, they will fall under these 4 basic categories of temperaments. Now, the 4 basic temperaments, like I mentioned earlier, falling into four basic categories: the sanguine and the choleric. The sanguine and the choleric fall under the extroverted temperament. In other words, these guys are extroverts. They like to go out, they like to see things, they like to, pursue adventure and stuff. They are bored when they are indoors. These are extroverts, and they are considered the hot version of humanity. Then we have the phlegmatic and the melancholy, and these two are introverted. In other words, they get fun from themselves, from within themselves. They get strength from within themselves. And this fall within the category or the class of the cold kind of people. So at times when you hear, there's a difference between something that is hot and something that is cold. Something that is hot has to do with something that is energetic, something that a lot of time, maybe you can say, gives inspiration and all of that. And then something that is cold. When you say someone is cold, you begin to see the other side, of a personality that, in a sense, someone may say is too wrapped up in himself or herself. Some other people may say that these guys are not very interesting to be around. Well, let me start by saying that I am an introvert to the core. An introvert to the core. And for people who know me, it would be wrong to say that I'm not a good person to be around or a nice person to be around. So to conclude that the cold side, well, like I said, in other people's definition, they may say that these people are boring, yes. They may say these people are not fun lovers. Well, they may have a point. But when it has to do with relationships, we will discover the powerhouse of the introvert and as well the extrovert. Okay, so let's proceed. I said your temperament is who you are. Understanding your temperament helps with all of your relationships. When you are with others who have similar temperament, it becomes clear why you are comfortable around them. You see, because there's something that looks like you. Now, but that doesn't always work in relationships. By the way, there's the saying that like poles attract. Sorry, in physics, like poles repel, unlike poles attract. So we have the north and south pole, they attract themselves. And then that's in magnetism now. And then we have like poles, like maybe north and north repelling, south and south repelling. Now, in a sense, we see that, taking effect in relationships, life's relationships. So you may think that people who are maybe extroverts naturally like people who are extroverts. But we see life playing in different ways. And it has a way of bringing different people together. And I think that the reason for that is to create a balance where one person can complement the other person for what they lack. I think so. Because, if I may ask the question, if everybody was like the sanguine, who is always talking, who would listen? Yeah? If everybody was like the choleric, who is naturally a boss, who would follow? There has to be a leader. There has to be a follower. There has to be the one who talks. There has to be the one who listens. And so there is balance in all of these that we must understand. And let me also say at this beginning point of this set of sessions that we'll be going through, and that is, no temperament is better than the other. Let me say that again. No temperament is better than the other. And so, by the time we begin to go through the temperaments, it's not your place to say, I don't like this particular temperament. I like this one. I think I want to be like this. Like I said earlier, you didn't have the opportunity to choose what your temperament should be. You were born that way. You were born that way. And there's this particular course I usually handle when I'm taking people in premarital classes, and it has to do with the topic of self-discovery, self-knowledge. And when I take self-knowledge, I usually mention that we have four basic things that make us who we are today. Number one, of course, our temperament, like I mentioned earlier. Number two has to do with our education. So earlier on, Paul was talking about titration and pipette and all of that stuff. Whether he likes it or not, he didn't leave the university without chemistry and the course, his major course that he read, having an impact on him. Like I usually would tell people, the time that the pandemic hit us in the different parts of the world was not the time that certain people learned the use of hand sanitizers. For some people, who went through the chemistry lab, who studied probably science lab tech, who studied medicine and science, medicine, who studied several courses that will take you into the laboratory on a daily basis. They were already used to using hand sanitizers. Unlike the engineers, let me specifically mention now, unlike the mechanical engineers, or maybe the construction engineers, the architects. These guys found themselves in the field working. When they were hungry and they laid hands on anything, they just took it to their, who cares about sanitizing the hand? No, they didn't go to school with such training. So, education has a way of conditioning our minds. So where someone who passed through 5, 6, 7 years in university, and every day they went to the lab, they had to sanitize their hand, they had to disinfect their feet. They never leave that school the same way. And then tomorrow, they get into a relationship with someone who just buys or picks food and begins to eat without all of that process. And they're like, come, what's going on? What's wrong with you? They were not like that. They weren't born like that, but education added it to them. Then, of course, we have other people. We have exposure. Many of us are who we are today because of the things and the places that we've been exposed to. So exposure is one of those things that has made us who we are today. Exposure. Like I usually, for those of us, from Nigeria, I usually would use this illustration to say that you cannot expect, it's not possible to expect the guy who was born and raised in Mushin to behave like the guy who was born and raised in Ikoyi or Victoria Island. Mbano. It's not possible. The things that these two classes of people have been exposed to growing up are completely different. You can't blame them. You can't blame the guy who grew up in Oshodi or the guy who grew up in Ojuelegba for certain things about his life. Of course, as we grow into adulthood, we have the opportunity to take responsibility of our lives and begin to intentionally and consciously remodel some things about our lives into the kind of person we want to, to end up becoming. But that takes a lot of pain, a lot of effort, a lot of intentionality. It will never happen on its own accord. But we're talking about who we found ourselves becoming. Exposure. Then, of course, experience. Yeah, experience. Certain things may have happened to us growing up and made us the kind of person that we are today. Experience. Experience. You can't see someone, for instance, who gets jittery, who gets afraid at any sudden sound in the night, and you're attacking him like, calm down now, be man. In the case where he's a guy, be man, why they feel like this? You have no idea what he has experienced in life. You have no idea what he faced with assassins, what he faced with armed robbers, what he faced at some time or some point in his life. You have no idea. So you can't begin to attack him for how he reacts or responds to the things that happens, around him and in his life. But the first on the list, like I mentioned, is temperaments. This one is talking about how you were born. How you were born. Your temperaments. Your temperaments. How you were born. So, today, we're talking about the sanguine. The sanguine. Who is the sanguine? Who is the sanguine? Let me read this introduction that I have here for us, and then I will go on to talk more about the sanguine. The sanguine is a natural extrovert. Natural. In other words, he doesn't struggle to be an outgoing person. He doesn't struggle to be a storyteller. Natural. A sanguine does not lack what to say. A sanguine does not walk into the midst of people and feels or experiences a complex. If a sanguine is foolish, in his foolishness, he is confident. Let me say that again. If a sanguine is foolish, in his foolishness, he is confident. You can't catch a sanguine feeling timid. No, he's not timid. So I say he's a natural extrovert. The sanguine is a very social person who likes to be with people. They are very friendly. Of all the temperaments, the sanguine is the easiest to be around socially. They are outgoing, handshaking, touching person, and wants to hug everyone in sight. That gives you a picture of a sanguine. They are outgoing, and a sanguine doesn't meet you and from a distance is just trying to compose themselves. They want to find one way or the other to extend their nature and their person into your space. They want to give you a handshake. They want to give you a high five. They want to hug you if you allow them. That's the kind of person the sanguine is. They bring life and energy into a room by their very presence. A sanguine does not step into a room unannounced. They are the ones that from the door, in fact, from the gate, you are hearing their voice. Kunle, you there house? That's the sanguine. Bros, how far? They don't greet silently. They enter a room, they announce themselves. You cannot enter any space and not pick out a sanguine from amongst the crowd. Not possible. Absolutely not possible. His or her cheerfulness and humor brighten everyone's life. They are an optimistic type of person who believes that life is an exciting and fun-filled experience that should be lived to the fullest. So the sanguine is the kind of person you hear, who says, I must enjoy this life to the fullest. And every day they wake up, they have an agenda for the day. Fun, fun, fun. No dull moment around the sanguine. Not a single one. Inactivity causes them stress because the pace at which they like to live their lives is intense. The sanguine is the most impulsive of all temperaments. They act spontaneously, hardly having to premeditate anything. Oh dear. Having hardly to premeditate anything. So if you think that a sanguine is the kind of person who maybe you ask him a question or you invite him to do something or to take a step and he's thinking twice, you are mistaken. The sanguine just says, oh, is that thing you're asking us to do, is it adventurous? They sign in. Is it something exciting? They sign in. Is it something, that's the sanguine for you. They are not thinking consequence. They are not thinking, fun, adventure. Count the sanguine in. Anything that looks like there's a life in it, the sanguine is up for it. The sanguine excels in communication-oriented things that will make them communicate or speak or relate with another human being. The sanguine excels in it. That's why the best marketers are sanguines. The best marketers in organizations are sanguines. They are not stressed to get into communications or to get into anything that has to do with him relating with another person. They know how to trigger discussions. At the end of the day, they want to sell you something, but they are not coming to tell you, we have a product here to sell. That is for the extrovert, the introvert, who is actually going marketing by force. That's the last place you want to find an introvert. Marketing, Abba. This guy loves, he's inside. But the sanguine, keep the sanguine in the office. You've killed him. He wants to be out there. Give them a marketing job. Wow. Where they are meeting people on a daily basis. You got the sanguine. So anything that has to do with communication with other people, other human beings, count the sanguine in. They are. Let me say this now. Maybe just a little switch, because I've been saying a lot about some of the good things of the sanguine. So let me also switch to certain things that may not look too interesting about the sanguine. So they are the least disciplined and much disorganized of all other temperaments. Least disciplined and much disorganized. So if you want to enter the home of a sanguine, without him even saying a word, you could just look around and know. Much disorganized, least disciplined. And the reason they are not disciplined is not because they choose not to be disciplined. It's just because of their nature. So somebody said, ask a sanguine to mow the lawn of the house. By the time you step aside and come back 10 minutes later, the sanguine has left the lawnmower by the corner and has gotten into a discussion with the neighbor across the fence. Heated discussion. Lawnmower is right by the side there. The work has been abandoned. Because a neighbor just from across the fence just told the sanguine, good morning. Whether the good morning was said in error or whatever, the guy just said good morning and the sanguine took over. So that nature in them makes them not to complete tasks. Put a sanguine in an office, give him an assignment. 30 minutes later, he just remembers that he needs to collect something from someone down the hall. He's not going to collect anything. Give him the opportunity. He will end up in a heated discussion. And then by the time you meet him, say, what are you doing here? I give you an assignment. I came to collect. He did not come to collect anything. He just could not keep his bum in the chair. The sanguine. Okay. They live as though they have no past or future. The sanguine rarely learns from their past mistakes. They simply live in the now. In the now. They are prone to exaggeration. So, if a sanguine, or maybe on his way to work or back from work or somewhere, he saw something or somebody told him something. By the time the sanguine is reporting it to you, he will add pepper, he will add salt, he will add, all kinds of spices to tweak and give life to the story. They almost never report a story how it is. The sanguine. In fact, if you tell a sanguine a story about something, when he or she is reporting it, they will not report it as though they were told. They will report it as though they were there. In a bid to give credibility to the information. All this defines who a sanguine is. And if you are listening to me now and you are saying, wow, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. There's a very high tendency, whether you knew it or not, if you are just learning about temperament tonight, and as I'm talking, you're like, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. There's a high possibility that indeed you are a sanguine. Or maybe as I'm talking, it's dawning on you, wow, that my boss, that sounds like my boss. Or that sounds like my girlfriend. Or that sounds like my brother. That sounds like my father. It's revealing to you the nature of someone within, your sphere of contact who has that temperament, the sanguine. And you can begin to tell now, oh, so this person was born this way. In other words, this person may not even be aware or intentionally knowing that this is what they are doing. It is something that is just flowing out of them naturally, without their having to premeditate or plan that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to say, this is how I want to say it. It just happens. So you are going to meet people in your life who exhibit this trait, or you are going to be meeting people in your life who exhibit this trait, or you are one of such people who exhibit this trait. And there is nothing wrong with you or that person. You are simply just born a sanguine. Simply. You are simply just born a sanguine. Nothing is wrong with you. You are simply just born a sanguine. This person will volunteer for different tasks, and they can and will complete the project so long as their ego is being fed. Did you hear that? Talking about the sanguine. So by the time somebody comes and say, I need 2 people to help me do this. Now, it's very possible that one of the first people to raise up their hands will be a sanguine. They love to volunteer. They are not interested in, the money. The money is good. They like the money. But the money will not be their motivation most of the time. It's just about, excitement, fun. Some other person is thinking, is there money behind this matter? Let's say a sanguine just hears, we need 2 people. We want to send you on this. Before the person even finishes the statement, the sanguine has said, I'm number 1. They just want to get out of this office. They just want to get out of this environment. They just want to meet new people, do something new. They are naturally bored. A sanguine is not good with routine. Doing one thing today, doing the same thing tomorrow, Jesus. You have a sanguine who is a banker, don't put him behind the desk. Put him at the teller, where he meets 100 faces every day. 100 faces that he has to interact with every day. Put him there. Don't put him inside the office. Don't put him in the counting room. You are killing him. And it's very possible that if a sanguine finds another job tomorrow, he's gone. But put him in an office where he can meet people and interact with people, oh boy. You've made his life fantastic. The sanguine. The sanguine is easily devastated if not constantly reassured that they are loved and appreciated. If not constantly shown that they are loved and appreciated, a sanguine is easily devastated. They are very demanding of people for love and affection. And they are plagued with feelings of jealousy when the love and affection they feel belongs exclusively to them is given to someone else. You see, because they are, let me put it this way, the sanguine is people-oriented. They like to relate with people. They like to be in the midst of people. They like to mix with people. They like to communicate with people. They like to interact with people. So anything that disconnects the sanguine from people, you are punishing the sanguine. You are punishing the sanguine. Now, having listed all of these things or mentioned a few of these things, I want to take us through. See, why am I taking us through all of this? I want you to understand who the sanguine is. I want you to understand who the sanguine is. Because it's either you are one or you are definitely on a daily basis going to be interacting with one. And you see, I'm not just a relationship coach, I'm a marriage coach as well. And one of the predominant things that I see in why a lot of marriages don't succeed is when you have 2 different people. I always would say that there is something that is constant in life, and that is difference. But a lot of people don't know how to accommodate their differences. They don't. So you find 2 people under the same house, living as husband and wife, but they cannot accommodate themselves because this person thinks different from me, this person behaves different from me. Wow. Everyone has and should be able to appreciate the other person's difference. Where you cannot or where you do not, then conflict is the result. It's a training that you must give to yourself. It's a training that you must give to yourself about the other person, about yourself. Because you see, you can train yourself. It's easier to train yourself than to train the other person. And in life, we we find out that a lot of us are doing the opposite. We are trying to train the other person to be like us and to do things that we like or we want. No. You can train yourself. You can work on yourself much easier than you could do the other person. Yes. 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 So I see it a lot in marriages, in homes. Being able to manage the other person's differences. This person is organized, the other person is scattered, and they fight like Tom and Jerry on a daily basis. Am I saying the person who is organized should behave as though they have a superior personality and look at the other person as having an inferior personality because they are unorganized? No, that would be wrong. Am I also saying that a person who is unorganized should remain unorganized for the rest of their lives? Absolutely not. It is possible to get organized. But you see, the irony about life. Okay, here is what this man said, Steve Harvey said in one of his shows. It sounded amusing. It sounded like a joke. But underlying his joke and his amusement was a deep truth. And he said that some research had been done in recent times which proved that people who are naturally late in almost everything, that they tend to live longer and healthier than people who are always early. Now, I thought that being early, whether to work, whether to your business, whether to appointments, I thought it was a good virtue. Yes, indeed it is. But Steve Harvey said that studies have proven that people who are late, naturally late, tend to live longer and more healthier than people who are naturally early. And he said, the obvious reason is these guys who are always late, they don't give a damn. The stress that you go through to be early, setting your alarm, waking up at 5, this guy doesn't go through all of that. Life for this guy is just fun-filled. And then he jumps up, oh, I'm late. And he does the best he can. And he rushes into the place. And he feels that he should tell you that he is sorry, and that should do it. And he lives his life that way. So, yes, like I said, it may sound amusing, but he said it was taken through a scientific study to prove that these number of people, through a survey and through experiments, it was concluded that they lived longer and enjoyed their lives better than people who... Oh yes, people, I'm not trying to encourage you now to begin to live careless. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm trying to let you know that, life can be stressless. And while there are some people who work at it to make life that way, there are some people who are that way naturally. And the sanguine is one of such people. So why wouldn't you have a sanguine in your life to balance up your stress? Oh dear. I'm telling you, Why wouldn't you have a sanguine in your life who will shut you down and say, bros, yeah, close that walk. Let's go watch movie. I love that. Incidentally, my wife is not, she's a phlegmatic with a sanguine person. Let me put it this way. She has a primary temperament of the phlegmatic, which is an introvert, and then a secondary temperament of a sanguine. That's my wife. So since the primary temperament is introverted, she tends to be more introverted than extroverted. But whenever that extroverted side of her kicks in, she drags me out of my introverted self. And I follow. We go out. We watch the movies. She's already beginning to tell me, this movie, when it comes out, we have to go watch it. I don't want to watch it at home. Yes, we can download it and watch it at home, but I don't want to watch this particular movie at home. So I already know that when this movie hits the cinema, we are going there. There are times when we go through Instagram and she's seeing, pictures of some places in town. She's like, we need to go to this place. In fact, at times when I see some of those pictures, I'm like, sweetheart, where is this one? We need to go there. Because I understand that, she also has that extroverted nature, and life has to be balanced. So on my own, I just want to be indoors. I just want to stay in front of my laptop and be doing my work and all of that, writing my books and all of that. But that's not all about life. There's space for balance. There's space for balance. Okay. I want to take us through certain things. I listed them, and then, of course, at some point I will talk about them so that, to further highlight who a sanguine is, so that as I'm mentioning these things, talking about them, you can begin to realize that, this sounds like me. Like I said, you don't choose who you are. You were born that way. So it's about self-discovery. Just in case this is you. And also, just in case this is someone that you know, it's a matter of admittance. This is why he is this way. This is why she is this way. And then your knowledge of this person, how they behave, or your knowledge of yourself, how you behave, will enhance how you relate with other people. And like I always would say, every temperament have their strengths and have their weaknesses. So by the time we are discovering or identify the sanguine today, we're going to be looking at the sanguine's strength and the sanguine's weaknesses. So just in case you're saying, I love the sanguine. You say, maybe you are a sanguine, and all the things I'm saying, you're like, I love the sanguine. I love the sanguine. We are going to go into the weaknesses. We're going to go into the weaknesses. And by the way, before I go into the weaknesses, let me tell you something. The weaknesses of every human being is why people dislike them. Let me say that again. The weaknesses of any human being is why people dislike them. So people will like you today or tomorrow because of the things, because of your strengths. But people will dislike you because of your weaknesses. So like I would say, in the words of Reverend Sam Oye, my pastor, starve your weaknesses and feed your strengths. Starve your weaknesses and feed your strengths. So if this is your personality or your temperament, after today, I am saying when you identify that these are my weaknesses, begin to starve them. Then, when you identify that these are your strengths, begin to feed them. In other words, I'm saying, give life to your strengths. Snuff the life out of your weaknesses. Your strengths are why people will like you and why people will continually enjoy being around you. Your weaknesses are why people will dislike you and why people will always try to get away from you. And if you know someone who is a sanguine, the reason you like that person is going to be because of his strengths. The reason you're going to want to leave that person and walk away from that person is going to be because of their weaknesses. But if you understand them, maybe, just maybe, you will relate better with them. Because you are now relating with them from a place of understanding. And so if you have someone who is a sanguine in your life, based on relationship, you may just be the what will I call it now? You may just be the lightning rod that will bring about the change in their lives, depending on the level of your relationship with them. Like I said, depending on the level of your relationship with them. Okay. So let me start with the major weaknesses. So the sanguine is a compulsive talker. He's a talkative. They must always say something. And you see, one of the things about a sanguine, when they run out of gist, they begin to gossip. They begin to tell secrets. They begin to backbite. Because the sanguine must talk. The sanguine must talk. So why am I pointing this out? It's a weakness, a major weakness. Major weakness. So if you look back at your life as a sanguine and you begin to see some of these traits, where you must always talk, you must always look for a story, you can't get into a place and then the place is quiet because no one is talking. You will start some form of gist. Whether it's politics, whether it's football, you will start, and by the time you run out of news headlines, you get into gossip. You get into the latest gossip in town. You get into backbiting. You get into revealing secrets. Because you feel that there's some kind of a news story that will hype the discussion. You don't want to come up with a discussion that is boring. That's the sanguine. He's a compulsive talker. They exaggerate and they elaborate. Also because of the way the sanguine talks, excuse me, it makes the sanguine to be lousy, if I may say. Lousy. It's because he's always talking about this, talking about that, talking about everything. So people could see the sanguine as being lousy. Some people see the sanguine as, how can this guy just be too happy? Too excited. You don't take anything serious. I'm being serious now. Stop laughing. Stop. It's not a joke. But the guy is... The sanguine is naturally loud. They have a loud voice and they laugh a lot. Like I said, when a sanguine enters the building, you know from a mile away that a sanguine has entered. They don't enter with quietness. It's not possible. The sanguine is controlled by circumstances. They are almost never in control. They are controlled by circumstances. It's either they are happy or they are angry. They just express themselves based on the atmosphere or certain things that, drive and control them or navigate their feelings. So the sanguine also could be that kind of person who gets angry easily, because they are a lot of times fueled by their emotions. Yes, fueled by their emotions. But one thing about the sanguine, for me, I think, even though it falls in as a weakness, but for me, I think is a strength. And that's because of their nature. If a sanguine is angry in the morning, by noon, they've forgotten. They've forgotten that they were angry. You just find them gisting somewhere and laughing, and you're like, is this not the guy that we had a quarrel this morning? He's having fun. And you are killing yourself. At times, you might even think that the sanguine is, let's assume you are married to a sanguine. And then after both of you are fought in the house, 30 minutes later, the sanguine is on the phone, shouting, exhilaratingly and excitedly with his or her friend. And you're like, me, I'm still here nursing my pain. This guy or this lady is all out, having fun, excited, laughing, joking. You think they are even doing it to you as payback. There's this so amusing. There's this song that a lot of it's a joke though, but I mean, there's so much possibility in it. Maybe where a couple is fighting, they are fighting, and then in the midst of the fight, one of the partner just starts up a song. I'm married to Jesus, Satan, leave me alone. I'm married to Jesus, Satan. And somebody's like, so I'm now the Satan. I mean, it could happen, and maybe it does happen, where the other person just gets into something to tease and to maybe heighten the anger and the annoyance of the other person. It could happen. It does happen. But you see, the sanguine will do that kind of a thing unconsciously. And there you are, beating yourself up, thinking that the sanguine is trying to get at you by catching fun. No. They had a fight with you. They've forgotten. They've moved on. And there you are, 2 days after. You are still nursing the pain. The sanguine has moved on. The sanguine has forgotten that there was even something like that. Now, when we get to the office, in the place of work, let me show you some of the strengths of the sanguine. Like I said earlier while I was talking, the sanguine knows how to volunteer. And so if you find yourself in a kind of office where there's a lot of volunteering work, it's very possible that in a short while, the sanguine will get several promotions than the other person, or than the other people in the office, because he's going to be involved and engaged in a lot of things. Who will do this? The sanguine. Who will do this? But naturally, because they love adventure. So they will love to volunteer. If it has to do with people who think up new ideas or new activities, the sanguine. Okay, what will we do this new session for the company? Give that assignment to the sanguine, and you'll be amazed at the things and the ideas that he or she will come up with. The introvert is routine. We did it last year. It worked. Let's do it again. The sanguine is thinking new. New. In fact, they have a list. Let's do this. If you ask them to give you the names of 10 projects that they can do for the next 10 years, they will bring it out with all amount of ease. The sanguine. The sanguine is creative and colorful. He has energy and enthusiasm. So the sanguine doesn't just volunteer. They have energy. They are the ones who motivate and inspire the rest. Oh, come on, we can do it. They add ginger and flavor and spice to the group. So if you want a project to work, look for a sanguine. Put him in the mix, and you have a motivator. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You want that project to work in your office? Look for a sanguine, put him in the mix, and go to sleep. You don't need to motivate the rest of the team. The sanguine will do it for you. He may not work, but the ginger, hey, the ginger that the sanguine will give to you and to the rest, you will think that the sanguine is the one going to do the most work. They will dodge, they will not walk, but they will ginger. And when the boss arrives to gain credit, if the sanguine lifted a little finger like this, that finger, the way he will exaggerate it, you will think that that finger was what caused the rest of the work to be achieved. Mr. and Mrs. Sanguine. Then the weaknesses within the workspace, the weaknesses. The sanguine will rather talk than do the work, like I said earlier. The sanguine forgets tasks and obligations. Like I said, the sanguine does not do well with routine. They are spontaneous. So if there's a task to do, and you say, John, this task for this project, you'll be handling it. Very likely that you will have to assign someone to be reminding John. Otherwise, that task, after a short while, John will abandon it. The sanguine is undisciplined, like I said, and the sanguine's priorities are out of order. They meet life with the fun that life presents, and not with the necessity and the need of certain things. Their priorities are a lot of times misplaced. A lot of times. So if you're in a relationship with a sanguine, just know that. So you are amazed why this person, you mean you cannot realize that this thing is more important than this? No. The sanguine does not. They don't. By nature. If you find a sanguine that knows how to prioritize, two things. It's either that sanguine has a secondary temperament that is organized, or that sanguine has trained and developed themselves over time to be organized. Otherwise, a sanguine is not organized by nature. So you will learn to forgive them for these shortcomings. Am I saying they should remain that way for the rest of their lives? No. But I'm saying you cannot change a sanguine. Only a sanguine can change themselves. And so the best you can do in the life of a sanguine is showing them this is why you do the things you do. Now, again, not throwing it in their face, but by relationship. And like I said earlier, depending on the level of relationship and the skill with which you use to make this realization obvious for the sanguine. Very, very important. The sanguine decides by feelings. It's a weakness. They don't decide by their brain. They hardly think. They don't organize their thoughts when they want to make decisions. They decide by feelings. How it feels right or how it doesn't feel right. That's how the sanguine responds or reacts to things. A sanguine is easily distracted, and then a sanguine wastes too much time talking and doing other things. On friendship and relationships, take note of this. I'm going to be rounding up very soon. On friendships and relationships, here are the strengths of the sanguine. So if you have a relationship with a sanguine, or you are a sanguine in a relationship, these are the strengths that you might meet about the sanguine. They know how to make friends easily. They know how to make friends what? Easily. So for those of us maybe in secondary school or university who used to spend a whole semester targeting someone maybe of the opposite sex to approach, to even start a conversation. A sanguine does not think twice how to start a conversation. Like I said, they are full of gists. They are full of what to say. And if they lack what to say, they import something to say. They are never in want for what to say. So if you know a sanguine, one of my advice to you is be careful and be conscious the kind of things you reveal to them. Otherwise, you'll actually be in the same venue, the same place with a sanguine, and he begins to tell something you told him 2 days ago, and he'll be saying it as though it originated from him. Revealing secrets. Mr. Fred says a proud word at that. Oh dear. Oh dear. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Fred. It says one time he walked at them and translated them to strengths. Beautiful. 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 You see, that's the idea. That's the purpose for all of this. Because it helps you know how to relate with other people. Instead of fight them, you understand that, oh, this is why he's behaving like this. And then the person also, just like Mr. Fred has said, identifies that, oh, this is a weakness that I have. How can I turn it? Mr. Fred says it's very organized. And then he doesn't procrastinate, especially when it has to do for money. Why should he? Come on. I love that. Identify your weakness and translate it into a strength. Mr. Fred says that is not a talkative for free. So his talk produces money. See, it's your strength. So can you use it in the positive way? That's what we're talking about. Oh dear. Okay, so on friends and relationship, we are saying the sanguine makes friends easily. They know how to touch some buttons that will just connect with the other person through discussion, through dialogue, through different things. Yeah, Mr. Fred just recommended a book, Why You Act the Way You Do by Tim LaHaye. If you know that book, please get it. Why You Act the Way You Do. It will reveal so many things about all that I'm talking about. Yeah, Tim LaHaye. The sanguine loves people naturally. The sanguine thrives on compliments. They love compliments and they give it. So it's not possible for a sanguine to come by you in the office and maybe you just had a fresh haircut or you just had a new hairdo and the sanguine will not compliment you. They will. They'll tell you, oh, your hair looks beautiful. Your hair looks good. I love your hair. I love your dress. I love your smile. They give a lot of compliments. Now, see, this is something that happens by the way, let me say this at this point. If you are, Prosper says I'm talking to him directly. I greet you, Prosper. So let me say this. If you are in the same office with a sanguine, and you are not careful, very soon, especially when it has to do with the opposite sex, so male to female, female to male, if you are not careful, very soon you may think that this person is trying to flirt with you. Because they're always complimenting your hair. They're always complimenting your looks. They're always saying something nice about you. And you think that they are trying to get into me. You begin to get the wrong message. It is possible for people to get the wrong signal from a colleague who is just a sanguine and nothing more. Just because of their personality. And so I usually will tell people, before you think that that guy is into you, or before you think that that lady is into you, do you know their personality? It could just be that they are being themselves and you are getting confused, thinking that they are into you. And if you don't know better, you begin to yield in the wrong direction. And then you mess things up. Because that person was innocently not thinking about what you are thinking about. They were just being themselves. They thrive on compliments. Sanguines can be envied by others. You see, because they show off. Because they're always wanting to be the first, to volunteer, the first to behave as though they know something, the first to want to take the step. So those other guys who are a little bit timid, who are a little bit laid back, they begin to envy this person. Don't envy the sanguine. He or she is just being a sanguine. And if you are a sanguine, don't stop being you. When it has to do with stepping out, to take responsibility, to do those things that you would naturally volunteer to do. Don't begin to draw back because people are fighting you, because people are envious of you. It is natural to follow a sanguine. Envy. Like I said earlier, a sanguine apologizes quickly. It is one of their strengths. Because, they just see their fault and they're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. For them, I'm sorry is good enough. And they march on. Remember, last time we looked at, different apology languages and all of that. For the sanguine, I'm sorry is good. And they march on. A sanguine prevents dull moments. They like spontaneous activities. Then, of course, we move to the weaknesses of the sanguine. In rounding up now, the sanguine has several weaknesses. I'm talking about within the relationship space now. The sanguine hates to be alone. It's a weakness. So if you're a sanguine, I'm talking to you now. Oh yes, very true. Don't allow people to take advantage of you. Don't allow people to take advantage of you. When you understand your personality, understand the strengths, understand the weakness, and stay on top of who you are. The sanguine hates. Rita says I'm talking about her husband now. It's okay. All right. So, a sanguine hates to be alone. They hate being alone. Don't put a sanguine in a position where they're alone. It's not good for them. It's not good they are relationship people. And maybe let me just chip this in. Wilfred says the reason he loves to cohabit. Rita says she wishes that he's here listening. Please get him to join Zed. This video will be available for him to watch. Oh dear. So, Rita, let me say this. I don't know what your temperament is, whether you are introverted or extroverted, but if you are introverted, you can't be pressing your phone 24/7 with your husband in the house. You can't. To do that means you are driving him out of the house because he needs company. That's the sanguine. Rita said that's what he does. True. You will drive him out of the house. And even when you want to, you say he presses his phone, and that's because he's communicating with someone outside. He's not getting the kind of gist that he needs from you. Find out what he loves. Rita, find out what he loves. Both discussion and all. He cannot be discussing Liverpool and you're discussing Manchester United. He will go look for a Liverpool fan out there to discuss with. He cannot be talking about the latest movies that have just dropped in the cinemas, and you are talking about Telemundo. Find out what he loves. You see now, you are telling us, Rita, that he loves Aproko gist, and you are not. So he'll go look for gist partners. If they are not there physically, he gets on his phone the latest gist in town. Oh dear! Don't worry. See, it's something. It's interesting when you know this thing. Like I call it, I say it's the foundation of relationships. I'm not saying that you must dance to his tune 24/7. That's not what I'm saying. But you see, I'm saying know him and know why he does what he does. That will make you relate with him better. And so, instead of you attacking him, you are going to be relating with him from the place of understanding, and it's going to enhance your relationship with him rather than create a fight between the two of you. At times, you just tease him. Where you should have been fighting with him, you tease him. You're getting to know him better. Weakness now. I'm rounding up. The sanguine loves to be the center or be at the center stage. Don't put a sanguine, at the backyard. Don't put a sanguine at the backyard. They love to be at the center of everything happening. So if you know that, when you want something to happen, bring a sanguine in. They will take over the matter for you. A sanguine wants to be popular. They love popularity. A sanguine looks for credit. Looks for credit. You see that thing you see that thing they do in Lagos with all these Agbero boys. Oba. They cheer the person. And the person begins to, feel their ego rise. That's the sanguine. Cheer is sanguine. If they have, all their money, they can give it to you by just cheering them, because it lifts their ego. They love popularity. They love giving credit, even for something that they've not done or they don't do. You know what? Rita says again, that's her husband. Though, I'm glad. You see, when you get to know this thing, you will develop ways and you no longer get offended. You no longer get upset. So you find out that tomorrow, when you wake up and you see him do this, you just, okay, this is it. This is why I get you. I get you. It's fun. A sanguine dominates conversation. It's all these I'm reading now for you are weaknesses. In other words, these are things that the sanguine should be able to deal with because they are the things that will make people not to be comfortable around them. So if your husband, for instance, is this kind of a person, we understand why he gets on your toes. We understand why you don't like him putting up with some of this attitude. But understand that he's an adult and not a child. He was born this way and he has been formed over the years. So to expect him to change overnight is not possible. In some cases, change is not possible at all. Like I said earlier, and I always tell people, change only happens when the individual realizes that I need to change. It's not how much you shout it in their ears. It's when they realize that I need to change. So like Fred said, he identified a particular thing as a weakness. And on his own, he worked on it and turned it around to become a strength. It's something we must do intentionally. You don't make anybody change. You cannot cause anybody to change. Instead, you will be creating for yourself an enemy when you want to insist that the person changes. The sanguine likes to dominate in conversations. They love to interrupt. They don't know how to listen. So by the time you are talking, before you say one, the sanguine say, They are not patient listeners. As it's coming to their mind, they want to say it. So they dominate conversations. They interrupt you. They don't listen. That's the sanguine. They always have answers for everybody. They always have answers. Everything you say, a sanguine has an answer. I wanted to say they will just wait for you to land. But the sanguine almost never waits for you to land. They interrupt. They are fickle and forgetful. They make excuses. They repeat stories. They tell you one story today, tomorrow they will repeat that same story. And if a sanguine who knows how to exaggerate and say it how it was not, there's a high tendency that story 1 will not be consistent with story 2 and will not be consistent with story 3. So as they're talking the story, you're just shaking your head. So, this guy, the story you said yesterday, you don't add salt today. You don't add pepper today. So guys, these are all about the personality of the temperament called the sanguine. And maybe as I'm talking here, you could be one, or you're saying, oh, I know one. I know one. This is why they are the way they are. This is why they behave the way they behave. This is why they talk the way they talk. This is why they do the things they do. They were born that way. So somebody say, okay, so what do I do? If you are a sanguine today, the work you have to do is to begin to build those weaknesses. Deal with those weaknesses and bring about the change. Snuff the life out of those weaknesses and transform them into strengths. And if you know someone who is a sanguine, what do you do? Depending on your level of relationship with, somebody said that it's normal for a bird to fly over your head, but it is your responsibility to ensure that that bird does not build a nest on your head. So now that you understand the life of a sanguine, you will be able to relate better with the sanguine. You will not be upset or angry at the actions of a sanguine because you know it is coming from a place of nature. You will know that it's coming from the place of nature. And when the sanguine talks, you're not upset, you're not offended, you're not angry, you're not trying to kill someone. You could just smile and laugh. Oh, okay, this is him, this is why. And just look the other way. And life continues. You don't get upset. It's like, you are a liar. You said this the other day, you said this today. He's a sanguine. Like I said, depending on your level of relationship with him, you may be able to help him to reveal some of these traits. Mr. Fred says you can sell crutches to someone who is a cripple. In other words, this person needs a crutch, but doesn't even realize that it's something they need until a sanguine steps in. True. Because the sanguine is a natural marketer. They reveal things that are needful even without you seeing their need. All right, so with that, we've come to the end of our subject for today, relationships and the sanguine and temperaments. And of course, today we zeroed into the sanguine. For you to see the person called the sanguine and why this person is the way they are, it is a nature. Don't say this guy has done this to me or this lady has done this to me. No, it's not coming from a place of hate. I love that, Fred. That a person who is a sanguine can get you well without medication. Because there's so much life around the sanguine. They exude life and fun. There's no dull moment around the sanguine. No dull moment. They are full of life, full of, exuberance and all of that. So where you are saying that the sanguine, I don't like you for this, I don't like you for this, could it be possible that there is the side of the sanguine that is beautiful, that is awesome, that if you know how to connect with this side of the sanguine, you would enjoy him, you would enjoy her. Because you see, the other side, you cannot change. It is not within your power to change it. Whereas, can you just enjoy the blessing of the sanguine? And stop fighting over the things that are not within your power to change. Am I saying they can't change? No, they can change. But their change is within their power and their choice and their decision to make. You can only help reveal who they are to them. But that change will only come from them. By the time we are done with these classes, you will realize that you can relate with anybody, because you will now be relating with them from the place of understanding, rather than from a place of fight and bickering. The sanguine. So with that, we come to the end of this class. We will continue the next class and probably look at another temperament. We have 4 of them to deal with, and at the end of the day, it's just to reveal to us the nature of this personality, or both to us, if that is our personality, or to the other person that we are dealing with, so that we can know better how to relate with them. Once again, my name is David King Etienam, your marriage and relationship coach. Thank you so very much, and God bless you.